Take us as your concubines. The alien princess's desperate plea echoes across the smoking wreckage of her spacecraft, her eyes fixed on Michael Jackson, the stunned retired astronaut who happened upon the crash site. Pia, the Lurian royal, emerges from the twisted metal with her mother and young daughter in tow. Their iridescent skin shimmers in the afternoon sun as they approach Michael, their movements graceful despite the chaos surrounding them. Michael blinks, his astronaut training kicking in as he assesses the situation. What? Concubines? He stammers, struggling to process the bizarre request. Pia nods solemnly, her large almond-shaped eyes conveying urgency. In exchange for our advanced Lurian technology, it's the only way to save both our worlds. Before Michael can formulate a response, a deafening roar fills the sky. He looks up to see massive ships entering Earth's atmosphere, their sleek designs unlike anything in humanity's arsenal. The pursuers, Pia whispers, fear evident in her voice. They'll destroy your planet if we're not surrendered. Within hours, the United Nations convenes an emergency session. World leaders debate furiously, weighing the options of surrendering the aliens versus fighting in vastly superior force. Michael, still reeling from the encounter, finds himself invited as an expert consultant due to his astronaut background and direct alien contact. Standing before the assembly, Pia explains the strict hierarchy and concubine tradition of Lurian society. Becoming Michael's concubines is the only way to prevent an interstellar war, she insists, her voice carrying across the tense chamber. After heated discussions and a close vote, the UN decides to allow the arrangement, overriding Michael's objections. Reluctantly, he agrees to take Pia, her mother and daughter as concubines to prevent global annihilation. The following days are a whirlwind of activity as Pia's family moves into Michael's modest home. Cultural clashes arise immediately. Pia attempts to initiate intimacy, leaving Michael flustered and hesitant. Her daughter struggles to adapt to Earth schooling, while her mother openly criticizes human technology as primitive. Outside, a media frenzy erupts. Anti-alien protesters gather, waving signs and chanting slogans. Conversely, pro-alien groups praise Michael as the savior of two worlds. Government officials pressure him relentlessly to learn Lurian secrets, adding to his overwhelming sense of responsibility. As tensions mount, Pia reveals a crucial piece of information. Her family possesses the key to unlocking faster-than-light travel. However, she'll only share this knowledge if Michael fully accepts the concubine arrangement. Torn between his duty to humanity and personal reservations, Michael faces an impossible choice. The Lurian warships looming in orbit serve as a constant reminder of the threat Earth faces. The UN imposes a deadline. Michael must formalize the relationship or risk an alien attack. Determined to navigate this unprecedented situation, Michael begins an intensive course on Lurian culture and customs. As he prepares for the official ceremony, he's surprised to find Pia expressing genuine attraction towards him, further complicating his ethical dilemma. Meanwhile, Michael's ex-wife resurfaces, vehemently objecting to the arrangement. International tensions rise as other nations demand access to Lurian technology. The fate of two civilizations now rests on Michael's shoulders, as he grapples with a decision that will alter the course of human history. As the weight of his impossible choice bore down on him, Michael found himself thrust into a whirlwind of preparation for the looming ceremony. The UN's imposed deadline approached with alarming speed, each passing day bringing Earth closer to potential annihilation. Michael's modest home transformed into a hub of frenzied activity. Lurian technology appeared overnight, installed by a team of engineers under Pia's watchful eye. The kitchen now boasted a sleek silver cube, a matter replicator capable of producing any food imaginable. In the living room, a shimmering holographic display replaced his old television, projecting three-dimensional images that seemed to float in midair. This will make communication with our homeworld more efficient, Pia explained, her iridescent skin catching the light as she demonstrated the device's functions. Michael nodded, feeling increasingly out of place in what was once his sanctuary. The cultural divide deepened as Pia's family settled in. Queen Alara's regal bearing seemed at odds with the suburban setting, her critical gaze sweeping over human appliances with thinly veiled disdain. "How quaint," she remarked, eyeing Michael's coffee maker. I suppose it serves its purpose, primitive as it is. Michael bit back a retort, reminding himself of the delicate balance he needed to maintain. Instead, he focused on his intensive training in Lurian customs and etiquette, spending hours each day studying under Pia's tutelage. No, Pia corrected gently, adjusting Michael's hand position as they practiced a traditional Lurian greeting. The left palm must face upward, symbolizing openness and trust. As Michael struggled to memorize the intricate gestures and protocols, he found an unexpected ally in young Zara. The Lurian child, fascinated by human culture, often sought him out with questions about Earth customs. "Why do humans shake hands?" Zara asked one afternoon, her large eyes filled with curiosity. "Isn't it unsanitary?" Michael chuckled, explaining the history and significance of the gesture. As he spoke, he noticed a warmth in his chest, a growing fondness for the alien child that complicated his already conflicted feelings. Outside, the world watched and waited. News vans lined the street, their satellite dishes pointed skyward like a forest of metal trees. Protesters gathered daily, their chants a constant backdrop to the household's tense atmosphere. "Go home, space freaks!" one group shouted, waving signs with crude alien caricatures. "Embrace our cosmic brothers and sisters," another faction countered, their banners adorned with peace symbols and stylized UFOs. The dichotomy of public opinion mirrored Michael's internal struggle. He found himself torn between duty to humanity and his personal reservations about the arrangement. Seeking clarity, Pia initiated a series of private meetings with Michael. In the quiet of his study, she shared stories of Lurian history and culture, her melodic voice painting vivid pictures of a world beyond the stars. "Our society values harmony above all," Pia explained, her eyes meeting Michael's. "The concubine tradition is not about subjugation, but about forging deep, lasting bonds between families and cultures." As they talked, Michael felt a tentative connection forming. Pia's intelligence and grace began to chip away at his preconceptions, though the physical aspect of their impending relationship still gave him pause. The delicate balance of the household was further disrupted when Sarah, Michael's ex-wife, launched a legal challenge against the concubine arrangement. Her impassioned plea on national television sparked a firestorm of debate. "This so-called agreement violates basic human rights and dignity," Sarah argued, her face tight with anger. "We cannot allow alien customs to override our laws and moral standards." The legal battle added another layer of complexity to the already fraught situation. Michael found himself fielding calls from government officials, lawyers, and UN representatives, each demanding his time and attention. As if the domestic and legal pressures weren't enough, international tensions reached a boiling point. Nations around the globe clamored for access to Lurian technology, threatening to withdraw support for the UN agreement unless their demands were met. "We cannot allow one nation to monopolize this knowledge," the Chinese ambassador declared during an emergency UN session. "The future of humanity must be shared equally." The pressure mounted on Michael and Pia to broker a deal for broader technological sharing, adding yet another burden to their already strained relationship. Above it all, the Lurian warships loomed in Earth's orbit, a constant reminder of the threat hanging over humanity. Military satellites captured footage of the alien vessels conducting weapons tests, streaks of unimaginable energy cutting through the void of space. As the day of the ceremony dawned, Michael stood before his mirror, adjusting the elaborate Lurian robes that had been prepared for him. The fabric shimmered with an otherworldly iridescence, both beautiful and alien. Pia appeared in the doorway, her own ceremonial garments accentuating her ethereal beauty. "It is time, Michael," she said softly. "Are you ready?" Michael met her gaze in the mirror, his heart pounding. In a few short hours, he would stand before the world and make a choice that would alter the course of human history. As he turned to face Pia, the weight of two civilizations rested squarely on his shoulders. Michael took a deep breath, his heart racing as he stepped out of his bedroom. Pia's presence beside him offered little comfort as they made their way to the waiting government vehicle. The weight of the elaborate Lurian robes felt foreign on his shoulders, a physical reminder of the monumental decision he was about to make. As they drove through the crowded streets of New York City, Michael caught glimpses of the massive alien warships hovering in the sky, their sleek forms casting long shadows over the bustling metropolis. The sight sent a shiver down his spine, a stark reminder of the consequences should this ceremony go awry. Upon arrival at the United Nations headquarters, Michael and Pia were ushered into a newly constructed dome. The structure's translucent walls allowed the assembled dignitaries and media to witness the ceremony while providing a measure of privacy. Queen Alara and young Zara joined them, their iridescent skin shimmering under the harsh lights. Michael's palms grew sweaty as he took his place on the stage. Billions of eyes watched from around the globe as he fumbled through the intricate Lurian rituals. His fingers trembled as he attempted to replicate the gestures Pia had so patiently taught him. "Left palm up," he muttered to himself, acutely aware of the silent judgment emanating from the audience. Midway through a particularly complex series of movements, a commotion erupted at the back of the dome. Michael's head snapped up, his eyes widening in shock as he recognized the figure pushing through the security cordon. "Sarah!" he gasped, watching in disbelief as his ex-wife led a group of protesters towards the stage. Chaos descended upon the ceremony. World leaders scrambled for cover as the protesters surged forward, their angry shouts drowning out the calls for order. Michael instinctively moved to shield Pia and Zara, his astronaut training kicking in as he assessed potential escape routes. In the confusion, a protester collided with Pia, jostling a small device from her hands. The object clattered to the floor, its smooth surface pulsing with an eerie blue light. Before Michael could react, a blinding flash engulfed him and the Lurian royals. The world spun, colors blurring into a dizzying kaleidoscope. Michael felt as if he were being stretched and compressed simultaneously, his very atoms seeming to scatter and reassemble. When the sensation finally subsided, he found himself sprawled on a cold metallic floor. Groaning, Michael pushed himself up, blinking to clear his vision. Gone was the chaotic scene of the UN dome. Instead, he found himself in a vast chamber filled with unfamiliar technology. Sleek consoles lined the walls, their surfaces covered in pulsing lights and alien script. "Where are we?" he croaked, his voice echoing in the cavernous space. Pia rose gracefully to her feet, her eyes wide with recognition. "This is impossible," she whispered, running her hand along a nearby console. "We're in the lunar outpost." "Lunar?" Michael sputtered, his legs shaking. "As in, on the moon?" Queen Alara's regal voice cut through his panic. "Indeed, this facility was established centuries ago to observe your species." Her tone carried a hint of amusement as she added, "Though I must say I never expected to visit it personally." As the gravity of their situation sank in, Michael felt a tug on his robe. He looked down to see Zara, her large eyes filled with a mixture of fear and excitement. "Are we going to be okay, Michael?" she asked, her voice small but steady. Michael knelt beside her, surprised by the surge of protectiveness he felt. "We'll figure this out together," he assured her, hoping his voice sounded more confident than he felt. Over the next few hours, the group explored their unexpected sanctuary. The outpost was a marvel of Lurian engineering, with systems designed to sustain life indefinitely. However, years of disuse had left many areas in need of repair. As they worked to restore power to critical systems, Michael found himself growing closer to Pia. Her quick thinking and technical expertise impressed him, and he began to see beyond her alien appearance to the intelligent, compassionate being within. "You're full of surprises," he remarked as Pia deftly rewired a malfunctioning life support panel. She smiled, her iridescent skin shimmering in the dim light. "As are you, Michael. Your adaptability is admirable." Their moment was interrupted by Queen Alara's imperious voice. "If you two are quite finished, we have more pressing matters to attend to." Despite her words, Michael detected a hint of approval in her tone. As they gathered in the outpost control center, the gravity of their situation became clear. They were cut off from Earth, with no immediate way to communicate their whereabouts or safety. Meanwhile, the interrupted ceremony had likely thrown both human and Lurian societies into turmoil. "We must find a way to contact Earth," Alara declared, her royal training evident in her commanding presence. "The consequences of our disappearance could be catastrophic for both our peoples. Michael nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. If this is truly an observation post, there must be some way to send a signal. We just need to figure out how to activate it. As they debated their next move, a flickering hologram sprang to life in the center of the room. The familiar face of UN Secretary-General Marcus Chen appeared, his expression a mixture of relief and urgency. "Thank goodness you're alive," Chen's voice crackled through the outpost speakers. "We've been trying to reach you for hours. The situation on Earth is deteriorating rapidly." Michael stepped forward, his heart pounding. "Mr. Secretary, what's happening down there?" Chen's hologram flickered as he explained the dire circumstances unfolding on their home planet. The Lurian warships, interpreting the ceremony's interruption as a rejection of the agreement, had begun limited strikes on military targets around the globe. World leaders were divided, some calling for immediate surrender, while others advocated for a military response. As Chen's words sank in, Michael felt the weight of responsibility settle even more heavily on his shoulders. The fate of two worlds now truly rested in his hands, and he knew that his next decisions would shape the course of human and Lurian history forever. With restored dedication, Michael turned to his unlikely companions. "We need to find a way to stop this conflict and bring our people together," he said, his voice steady despite the turmoil in his heart. "And I have a feeling the answer lies somewhere in this outpost." Pia nodded, her eyes meeting his with a shared sense of purpose. "Then let's get to work," she said, her hand brushing his as they turned to face the challenges ahead. As they turned their attention to the complex systems of the lunar outpost, a sense of urgency filled the air. Michael's eyes darted between the alien consoles, his mind racing to make sense of the unfamiliar technology. "We need to find a way to contact Earth and stop this conflict," he said, his voice tight with tenacity. Pia nodded, her slender fingers already dancing across a nearby interface. "I believe I can recalibrate this communication array to reach your planet's frequencies," she said, her brow furrowed in concentration. As Pia worked, Michael found himself drawn to a pulsing blue light emanating from a recessed panel. He approached cautiously, studying the intricate patterns etched into its surface. "What is this?" he asked, gesturing towards the device. Queen Alara glided over, her regal bearing unchanged despite their dire circumstances. "That, Michael, is the key to our salvation," she said, her voice low and reverent. "It's a faster-than-light drive, capable of revolutionizing space travel." Michael's eyes widened as the implications sank in. "If we can activate this, we might be able to end the conflict and bring our peoples together," he breathed. Pia joined them, her expression a mixture of excitement and trepidation. "Activating the drive won't be easy," she cautioned. "It requires a unique combination of Lurian royal DNA and human genetic material, a safeguard implemented by my ancestors." As they discussed the intricacies of the faster-than-light technology, young Zara tugged on Michael's robe. "I have an idea," she said, her voice small but confident. "Can we use the base's sensors to gather information about the Lurian fleet?" Michael knelt beside her, impressed by her quick thinking. "That's brilliant, Zara. Let's see what we can find out." Working together, they accessed the lunar base's advanced sensor array. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the positions of the Lurian warships orbiting Earth. As they studied the data, a troubling pattern emerged. "The fleet is operating on outdated protocols," Pia said, her voice tinged with concern. "They're unaware of our recent diplomatic progress." Before they could discuss this further, the communication array crackled to life. Queen Alara had successfully established a link with Earth. The holographic form of Secretary-General Marcus Chen materialized before them, his face etched with worry. "Thank goodness you're alive," Chen's voice echoed through the chamber. "The situation on Earth is critical. The Lurian warships have expanded their attacks, targeting major cities and military installations. Casualties are mounting, and global panic is setting in." Michael's teeth gritted as he absorbed the news. "We're working on a solution, Mr. Secretary," he said, fighting to keep his voice steady. "But we need time." Chen nodded grimly. "I'll do what I can to buy you that time. We're launching diversionary tactics, decoy missiles, holographic projections to create the illusion of a larger defense force. It's not much, but it might slow them down. As the communication ended, Michael turned to Pia, their eyes meeting with shared willpower. "We need to activate that faster-than-light drive," he said. "It's our best chance to end this." Pia nodded, a faint blush coloring her iridescent skin. "There's something you should know, Michael," she said softly. "The genetic exchange required to activate the drive. It's intimate in nature." Michael's heart raced as the implications of her words sank in. The concubine arrangement that had seemed so foreign and uncomfortable now took on new significance. As they stood there, the weight of two civilizations resting on their shoulders, the tension between them crackled with newfound intensity. Queen Alara's voice cut through the charged silence. "While you two work on the drive, I will continue to coordinate with Earth. Every moment counts." As Michael and Pia moved towards the faster-than-light device, Zara's small voice piped up once more. "I want to help too," she said, her young face set with grit. "I can assist grandmother with the communications." Michael smiled at the young Lurian, marveling at her courage and quick thinking. "You're doing a great job, Zara," he said warmly. "Keep it up." With renewed focus, Michael and Pia turned their attention to the complex Lurian interface of the faster-than-light drive. As they worked side by side, deciphering ancient symbols and calibrating delicate systems, Michael found himself acutely aware of Pia's presence, the grace of her movements, the intelligence sparkling in her eyes. He saw her now not as an alien being, but as a partner in this crucial mission. Hours passed as they labored, their efforts punctuated by updates from Queen Alara on the deteriorating situation on Earth. The Lurian attacks intensified, and human defenses were crumbling. The weight of their task pressed down on Michael, each passing moment a reminder of the lives hanging in the balance. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity of work, they reached the critical moment. The faster-than-light drive hummed with energy, its surface pulsing with an otherworldly blue light. All that remained was the final step, the intimate genetic exchange that would bring the ancient technology to life. Michael turned to Pia, his heart pounding. The awkwardness of their initial meeting felt like a distant memory as he gazed into her eyes, seeing the same mix of fear, hope, and something deeper reflected back at him. "Are you ready?" he asked softly, reaching out to take her hand. Pia nodded, her fingers intertwining with his. "Yes," she whispered, "for the sake of both our peoples." As they moved closer, the air around them seemed to crackle with energy. The fate of two civilizations hung in the balance, their actions in this moment holding the power to shape the future of human-Lurian relations forever. Just as their lips were about to meet, a thunderous rumble shook the lunar base. Alarms blared, and the holographic displays flickered with urgent warnings. Michael and Pia sprang apart, their moment of intimacy shattered by the sudden chaos. "What's happening?" Michael shouted, struggling to be heard over the cacophony of alarms. Queen Alara's voice cut through the noise, her usual composure tinged with urgency. "The base's defensive systems are activating. It appears our attempts to power up the faster-than-light drive have triggered something else entirely." As they watched in awe, dormant systems throughout the lunar outpost sprang to life. Panels slid open to reveal weapon emplacements, while holographic displays showed the awakening of a vast network of satellites orbiting Earth and the Moon. Zara's eyes widened as she studied the incoming data. "It's a defensive grid," she said, her young voice filled with wonder. "The outpost isn't just an observation post, it's a powerful defensive installation." Michael's mind raced as he processed this new information. The lunar base had the potential to neutralize the Lurian warships threatening Earth, but it also represented a new complication in the delicate balance between their species. As the ancient Lurian systems powered up around them, Michael knew that their next actions would be crucial. The fate of both humanity and the Lurians now rested not just on the activation of the faster-than-light drive, but on their ability to control and utilize this unexpected defensive power. With renewed commitment, Michael turned to his companions. "We need to master these systems quickly," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. "It may be our best chance to stop the conflict and bring our people together." As they moved to tackle this new challenge, The lunar base continued to awaken, its long dormant power promising both salvation and potential destruction. The race against time had taken on a new urgency, with the lives of billions hanging in the balance. Balance. The urgency of their task greatly troubled on Michael's mind as he turned to address his companions. "We need to master these systems quickly," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. "It may be our best chance to stop the conflict and bring our people together." As they moved to tackle this new challenge, a low hum reverberated through the lunar base. The floor beneath their feet vibrated, and a previously hidden panel slid open with a hiss of escaping air. From the newly revealed chamber, a cylindrical pod emerged, its surface covered in a thin layer of frost. "What is that?" Michael asked, taking a cautious step towards the mysterious object. Queen Alara's eyes widened in recognition. "It's a cryogenic pod," she breathed, her voice filled with a mixture of awe and apprehension. "But I thought all of these had been decommissioned centuries ago." As they watched, the pod's opaque surface began to clear, revealing the form of a male Lurian inside. His features were sharp and regal, bearing a striking resemblance to Queen Alara herself. "Grandmother," Zara whispered, tugging on Alara's sleeve. "Who is he?" Before the queen could respond, the pod's systems initiated the revival process. Steam hissed from vents along its sides as the temperature within rapidly increased. The Lurian's eyes snapped open, immediately alert and focused. The pod's cover slid open, and the mysterious Lurian sat up, his gaze sweeping across the room before settling on Queen Alara. His expression hardened, and he spoke in a voice that was both commanding and cold. "I am Zorn, last surviving member of the Calorian dynasty," he declared, rising to his full height. "And I challenge Pia's claim to the Lurian throne." The room fell silent as the weight of his words sank in. Michael glanced at Pia, noting the shock and confusion on her face. The delicate peace they had been working towards now seemed to hang by a thread. "On what grounds do you make this challenge?" Queen Alara asked, her voice barely concealing her alarm. Zorn's eyes narrowed. "By the ancient laws of succession, my lineage predates yours. I was placed in stasis to preserve our royal line in case of catastrophe. Now that I have awakened, it is my right and duty to assume leadership of our people." Michael's mind raced, recognizing the potential for renewed conflict. He stepped forward, placing himself between Zorn and the others. "Lord Zorn," he said, choosing his words carefully, "I understand this must be disorienting for you, but much has changed since you entered stasis. We're in the middle of critical peace negotiations with Earth. Perhaps we could discuss your claim in a more diplomatic setting." Zorn's gaze shifted to Michael, studying him with intense curiosity. "A human," he mused. "Interesting. Very well, I will hear what you have to say, but know that I will not relinquish my birthright easily." As tension simmered, the base's communication array crackled to life once more. Secretary General Chen's holographic form appeared, his expression a mixture of relief and concern. "We've detected unusual energy signatures from the lunar surface," Chen reported. "Is everything all right up there?" Michael stepped forward, keenly aware of the delicate situation. "Mr. Secretary, we've made some unexpected discoveries. We need to return to Earth immediately for an urgent meeting, and we'll be bringing a guest." Chen's eyebrows rose, but he nodded in agreement. "I'll make the necessary arrangements. A secure facility will be prepared for your arrival." As the transmission ended, Michael turned to address the group. "We need to present a united front when we return to Earth," he said, his voice firm. "The fate of both our peoples depends on it." Zorn's eyes narrowed, but he nodded curtly. "I will cooperate, for now, but do not mistake this for acquiescence." With the situation temporarily stabilized, the group made their way to the lunar base's hangar. A sleek shuttle awaited them, its design a seamless blend of human and Lurian technology. As they boarded, Michael couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The complications they faced had multiplied exponentially, and he knew that the real challenges were only just beginning. The journey back to Earth was tense, filled with hushed conversations and wary glances. As they entered the planet's atmosphere, Michael gazed out at the blue expanse below. The world he had left behind seemed somehow different now, changed not just by the conflict but by the profound discoveries they had made. Their shuttle touched down at a heavily guarded facility on the outskirts of New Geneva. As they disembarked, Michael noticed the mix of human and Lurian security personnel, a testament to the fragile alliance they had forged. Secretary General Chen greeted them personally, his eyes widening slightly at the sight of Zorn. "Welcome back," he said, his voice carefully neutral. "I trust you'll fill me in on the developments." Michael nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders once more. "There's much to discuss, Mr. Secretary, but first, I think we all need to rest and prepare for what's to come." As they were led into the facility, Michael caught Pia's eye. The unspoken connection between them had grown stronger, and he could sense her mixture of anxiety and perseverance. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew they would face them together. Little did they know that their return to Earth would set in motion a chain of events that would test the limits of their newfound alliance, challenge the very nature of human and Lurian existence, and push Michael and Pia to the forefront of a struggle that would determine the fate of both their species. As they entered the facility, Michael couldn't shake the feeling that their return to Earth marked the beginning of an even greater challenge. The weight of their discoveries on the lunar base pressed heavily on his mind, and he knew that the delicate balance they had achieved was about to be tested like never before. In the days that followed, Michael and Pia found themselves at the center of a whirlwind of activity. The joint human-Lurian interstellar mission, once a distant dream, was now moving forward at breakneck speed. As they worked tirelessly to integrate the faster-than-light technology into Earth's existing infrastructure, an unexpected development began to unfold. Dr. Emily Chen, a brilliant xenobiologist who had been studying the effects of Lurian technology on human physiology, requested an urgent meeting with Michael, Pia, and Secretary General Chen. "I've detected some anomalies in the latest medical scans," Dr. Chen explained, her eyes darting between holographic displays of complex genetic data. "The exposure to the faster-than-light technology seems to be triggering widespread physiological changes in both humans and Lurians." Michael felt a chill run down his spine. What kind of changes? Dr. Chen's fingers flew over the holographic interface, bringing up side-by-side comparisons of human and Lurian brain scans. In humans, we're seeing enhanced cognitive function, improved memory retention, and even the emergence of limited telepathic abilities. The Lurians, on the other hand, are experiencing rapid adaptations to Earth's environment, increased tolerance to our atmosphere, adjustments to our gravity, and even alterations in their digestive systems to process Earth-based nutrients. Pia leaned forward, her eyes wide with a mixture of fascination and concern. "These changes, are they harmful?" "Not from what we can tell," Dr. Chen replied. "In fact, they seem to be overwhelmingly beneficial. But the rate of change is unprecedented. We're talking about evolutionary leaps that should take thousands of years occurring in a matter of weeks." Secretary General Chen's brow furrowed. "How widespread are these changes?" "That's the thing," Dr. Chen said, her voice dropping. "They're not limited to those in direct contact with the technology. We're seeing similar alterations, albeit to a lesser degree, in the general population of both species. It's as if the faster-than-light drive has triggered some kind of symbiotic awakening." The implications of Dr. Chen's words hung heavy in the air. Michael exchanged a glance with Pia, feeling a surge of connection that seemed to transcend their physical bodies. He realized with a start that their own changes had progressed far beyond what they had initially perceived. Before they could fully process this information, alarms blared throughout the facility. Security Chief Rodriguez burst into the room, his face grim. "Sir, we have a situation. There are protests breaking out across the globe. Anti-alien sentiment is surging, and there are reports of violence at Lurian embassies." Secretary General Chen's shoulders tensed. "What's driving this?" Rodriguez brought up a series of news feeds on the main display. "It's a perfect storm, sir. Rumors about the physiological changes have leaked, and conservative factions on both sides are in an uproar. A human named Victor Kane is leading an anti-alien movement that's gaining significant traction. Meanwhile, that Lurian you brought back from the moon, Zorn, he's rallying Lurians who fear losing their cultural identity. He's calling for a complete severance of ties with Earth and a return to their homeworld. Michael felt a surge of frustration. They had come so far, and now it seemed everything was on the verge of falling apart. He turned to Pia, their eyes meeting in silent communication. Without a word, he knew they shared the same drive to find a way through this crisis. "We need to address these concerns head-on," Michael said, his voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around them. "Pia and I can serve as living proof that these changes are not a threat, but an opportunity for greater understanding between our species." Pia nodded in agreement. "We should arrange a joint broadcast, show the world that humans and Lurians can work together, that we're stronger, united than divided." As they began to formulate a plan, Michael felt a sudden, intense connection with Pia. Their thoughts seemed to flow together, ideas and strategies forming with unprecedented clarity and speed. He realized their own symbiotic bond had deepened, providing them with a unique perspective on the unfolding crisis. Secretary General Chen watched them with a mixture of awe and unease. "Your connection, it's grown stronger, hasn't it?" Michael nodded, suddenly aware of how their enhanced abilities might be perceived. "It has, and I think it might be the key to navigating this situation." As they prepared to address the world, Michael couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the precipice of a new era. The challenges ahead were daunting, but for the first time, he felt truly equipped to face them. With Pia by his side and their newfound abilities, he dared to hope that they could bridge the gap between their species and forge a path to a shared future. Little did they know that their efforts to maintain peace were about to be tested in ways they could never have imagined, as both human and Lurian extremists prepared to make their move against the fragile alliance they had worked so hard to build. As Michael and Pia prepared to address the world, a sudden tremor shook the facility. Alarms blared and the lights flickered ominously. Before anyone could react, a blinding flash engulfed the room. When the light faded, Michael found himself on the floor, his head spinning. He blinked, trying to focus on his surroundings. The room was in disarray, equipment scattered and sparking. As he struggled to his feet, he caught sight of Pia and froze. She stood before him, her appearance subtly altered. Her skin had taken on a faint, iridescent sheen, and her eyes seemed to glow with an inner light. Michael realized with a start that he, too, felt different. His senses were sharper, his mind clearer. "Michael?" Pia breathed, her voice a mix of awe and confusion. "What happened to us?" Before he could respond, Secretary General Chen's voice crackled over the intercom, tinged with urgency. "We have multiple security breaches. Zorn's separatists have infiltrated the lower levels, and Kane's protesters are storming the main entrance." Michael and Pia locked eyes, a wordless understanding passing between them. In that moment, they realized their connection had deepened beyond anything they had experienced before. Thoughts and emotions flowed freely between them, merging into a unified consciousness. "We need to split up," Michael said, his mind already formulating a plan. "I'll handle Zorn. You take care of Kane's followers." Pia nodded, her commitment mirroring his own. "Be careful," she said, squeezing his hand before turning towards the exit. Michael sprinted through the corridors, his enhanced senses guiding him through the chaos. He could feel the presence of others around him, their emotions a turbulent mix of fear and anger. As he rounded a corner, he came face to face with Zorn and his separatists. "Stop!" Michael commanded, his voice carrying an authority he had never possessed before. The Lurians hesitated, their weapons wavering. Zorn stepped forward, his eyes narrowing as he took in Michael's altered appearance. "What have you done to yourself, human?" Michael held up his hands, projecting an aura of calm. "I've evolved, Zorn. We all have. This isn't about erasing who we are. It's about becoming something greater together." As Michael spoke, he could sense the doubt and curiosity rippling through the Lurian ranks. He pressed on, drawing on his newfound understanding of their culture and fears. "The symbiosis isn't destroying us. It's enhancing us. Look at me. I'm not just human anymore, but I haven't lost my humanity either." Outside, Pia faced a sea of angry faces. Kane's followers jeered and shouted, their fear palpable in the air. Pia took a deep breath, centering herself. When she spoke, her voice carried across the crowd with surprising clarity. "I know you're afraid," she began, her altered appearance causing a hush to fall over the mob. "Change is scary. But look at me. I'm still Lurian, still myself. But now I understand humanity in a way I never could before. We have an opportunity here to create something beautiful together." As Pia spoke, she could feel the crowd's energy shift. Confusion replaced anger, and then, slowly, curiosity began to bloom. She shared her experiences, the wonder of seeing the world through new eyes, and the potential for a future where both species could thrive together. Back inside, Dr. Emily Chen burst into the room where Michael and Zorn stood in tense negotiation. "I've made a breakthrough," she exclaimed, her eyes wild with excitement. "The symbiotic changes, they're not random. They're solving long-standing biological issues in both our species." Michael seized on this information, relaying it to Zorn and his followers. "Don't you see? This isn't about losing our identity. It's about becoming the best versions of ourselves." As understanding dawned on Zorn's face, alarms blared once again. Security Chief Rodriguez's voice crackled over the intercom. "Alert! Zorn and Kane have joined forces. They've stolen a prototype of the faster-than-light drive." Michael's heart raced as he realized the implications. He reached out with his mind, connecting with Pia instantly. Their thoughts merged, formulating a plan of action. "We need to go after them," Michael said to the assembled group. "The consequences, if they activate that drive, could be catastrophic." Zorn, his earlier hostility replaced by a newfound sense of purpose, stepped forward. "I'll help you. It's time we put an end to this conflict." As they raced to assemble a joint human-Lurian task force, Michael felt a surge of hope. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but for the first time he truly believed they had a chance to bridge the gap between their species. With Pia's presence a constant warmth in his mind, Michael boarded the pursuit vehicle. As they took off in pursuit of Zorn and Kane, he knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, not as human and Lurian, but as something new, something greater than the sum of their parts. The chase was on, a high-stakes pursuit that would determine the fate of two civilizations and test the limits of Michael and Pia's newfound bond. Abilities. The pursuit vehicle streaked through the night sky, its engines humming with impossibly strong power. Michael's enhanced senses picked up every minute vibration, every shift in air pressure as they closed in on their target. Beside him, Pia's presence was a constant reassuring warmth in his mind. Their thoughts flowed seamlessly, strategy and tactics merging into a unified plan of action. As they approached the remote location where Zorn and Kane had taken the stolen faster-than-light drive, the first signs of trouble became apparent. A swirling vortex of energy pulsed in the distance, its eerie light casting long shadows across the landscape. "They've activated the drive," Pia said, her voice tight with concern. Michael nodded, his heart made. "We need to move fast. Everyone prepare for immediate deployment." The pursuit vehicle touched down in a clearing near the facility. Michael and Pia led the way, their movements perfectly synchronized. Behind them, human and Lurian forces fanned out, their newly enhanced abilities allowing them to move with unprecedented stealth and coordination. As they approached the facility's perimeter, Michael felt a familiar presence in his mind. "Zara?" he sub-vocalized, knowing the hybrid AI would pick up his thoughts. "We need access." Zara's response came instantly, her voice a cool whisper in his mind. "Already on it. Security systems are down in 3, 2, 1. The facility's defenses flickered and died, leaving it vulnerable to their assault. Michael gave the signal, and the joint human-Lurian force surged forward. Inside the facility, chaos reigned. Alarms blared as Zorn and Kane's followers scrambled to defend their position. Michael and Pia moved as one, their enhanced reflexes allowing them to dodge incoming fire with fluid grace. As they fought their way deeper into the complex, the energy from the faster-than-light drive grew more intense. The air crackled with power, and Michael could feel the hairs on his arms standing on end. They burst into the central chamber, where the stolen drive pulsed with ominous energy. Zorn stood at a control panel, his fingers dancing over the alien interface. Kane prowled the perimeter, a high-powered rifle clutched in his hands. "Stop!" Michael's voice rang out, cutting through the din of battle. "You don't know what you're doing!" Kane whirled, his face contorted with rage. "Back off, freak! We're putting an end to this abomination once and for all!" Michael dodged as Kane opened fire, the enhanced reflexes allowing him to move faster than any normal human. He closed the distance rapidly, engaging Kane in hand-to-hand combat. The anti-alien leader fought with the desperate ferocity of a cornered animal, but Michael's newfound strength and speed gave him the edge. Across the room, Pia faced off against Zorn. The Lurian separatist leader wielded a crackling energy staff, its arcs of power filling the air with the scent of ozone. Pia moved with fluid grace, her mastery of Lurian combat techniques allowing her to parry and counter Zorn's attacks. As the battles raged, the faster-than-light drive's energy field began to expand rapidly. Consoles sparked and equipment shorted out as the power levels spiraled out of control. Michael's comlink crackled to life, Dr. Emily Chen's voice filled with urgency. "The drive is overloading. If it reaches critical mass, the resulting explosion will devastate half the continent." Realizing the gravity of the situation, Michael made a split-second decision. He disengaged from his fight with Kane and lunged for the drive's control panel. Pia, sensing his intention through their bond, created a diversion that drew Zorn's attention away from Michael's approach. As Michael reached the controls, his heart sank. The system was a complex blend of human and Lurian technology, requiring input from both species to shut down safely. He turned to the room, his voice carrying an authority that made even Kane and Zorn pause in their tracks. "Listen to me, this isn't about humans or Lurians anymore. If we don't work together right now, we all die. The drive is going to explode and it will take half the planet with it. We need to shut it down together." For a moment, the only sound was the ominous hum of the overloading drive. Then slowly, Kane lowered his weapon. Zorn's energy staff powered down. They approached the control panel, wariness evident in their every movement. "What do we need to do?" Zorn asked, his earlier hostility replaced by unyielding commitment. Michael quickly explained the shutdown procedure, assigning tasks to each of them. As the countdown to catastrophe ticked away, human and Lurian worked side by side, their combined knowledge and skills focused on a single goal. With seconds to spare, their efforts paid off. The drive's energy field began to collapse, its pulsing light fading to a dim glow. The tension in the room slowly dissipated as the immediate threat passed. In the aftermath, Michael and Pia stood together, their hands intertwined. They watched as Zorn and Kane, former enemies, engaged in quiet conversation. The shared brush with annihilation had opened their eyes to the possibilities of cooperation. As emergency teams secured the facility and began the process of safely dismantling the drive, Michael turned to Pia. Their eyes met, and a wordless understanding passed between them. This crisis had been averted, but it was only the beginning. The real work of bringing their two species together was just starting. With renewed purpose, they stepped forward to address the assembled humans and Lurians. The path ahead would be challenging, but for the first time there was genuine hope for a united future. As Michael began to speak, he felt Pia's presence in his mind, their thoughts merging into a shared vision of the world they would build together.
If you finished this story, please subscribe and like the video. Then leave a comment that says, "I liked the story," and I will heart every single one of them. It really helps me. Thank you for your time.